Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Antwon Tonight I will be talking to you about, tonight I will be arguing for the legalization of marijuana in the U.S. will have an almost negligible positive effect on the U.S. economy. The main points I will cover in my presentation are: one, marijuana revenues would be minuscule in addressing America's financial problems. And two, legalization will result in an increased consumption costs. And increased consumption and decreased production costs. So first, I will talk about how marijuana revenues will be minuscule in addressing America's financial problems. First, I would like to point out that the projected savings from the non-enforcement of prohibition, of marijuana prohibition, which is like the police going out and arresting people for possession and selling, is about 14 billion annually. This number comes from Dr. Jeffrey Miron. He's a professor of economics from Harvard University. The estimates for legal marijuana, for the legal marijuana industry, fluctuate around 45 billion to 100 billion annually, but the U.S. is currently 60 trillion in debt. So these billions of dollars really aren't comparing to the 60 trillion that we're in debt, and we keep going further in debt as time progresses. Also, taxpayers pay approximately $42 billion every year just for marijuana prohibition. And one more statistic that I found was that the incarceration of inmates on marijuana-related charges costs taxpayers about another $1 billion every year, just because. And this statistic comes from the U.S. Department of Justice. Second point I would like to go over tonight is that legalization will result in increased consumption. Now, what marijuana does to your body when you smoke it is you get slow, you don't want to do anything, you lose productivity, and it clouds your judgment. That's a big thing. So if marijuana were legalized in the workplace, people's judgment would be clouded, and they wouldn't be able to react as fast or, get that job done on time. They would, you would start seeing your workers be late, turning in things late. Also, legalization, since it would result in decreased production costs, an ounce that costs $300 now would only cost $20. So everybody that now doesn't want to pay $300 for an ounce of weed would only have to pay $20 for an ounce now, so they would be willing to spend $300 on a couple of ounces of weed. And this results in increased consumption, and this is why the economics would be offset by this increased consumption, because although there would be a completely new industry added to the economy, the decreased productivity would offset this economic income. People would also be able to, in turn, people's decreased productivity in the workplace would cause many jobs to be lost and a lot of money to be lost as well. And that's my presentation tonight.
All right, Antwon, you do state the proposition at the beginning of the speech. The phrasing of it's a little bit complicated. It is a claim of fact the way you have it phrased. I think what you need is a little bit more background to know why we are listening to this claim. This would make sense to start off by saying, look, several states have legalized marijuana. There's a belief that it's going to have an economic benefit to these states. They believe they're going to get tax revenues and that they're going to have reduced costs as a consequence of this legalization. My position is that the legalization of marijuana will have an almost negligible positive effect on the economy. And in fact, I'm not sure that you want to stick with that, because this whole second point says that it's going to have a negative effect on the economy. So why not take that extra step and say that legalization is going to have a negative impact on the economy? The first point is really then just a rebuttal argument to whatever potential advantages there are. And then the second point would advance a claim that I think you really do make the argument for, but you need better proof on. You previewed the supporting points relatively clearly, although, like I said, the phrasing is a little bit problematic, and I just think that you need a little bit more background information on the controversy. The signposting in the body of the speech is clear, but it's a little awkward when you get to those points. It sounds kind of mechanical when you're getting there. Your transitions need to be smoother. There's an explanation of the background assumptions. What's missing, though, is proof on those assumptions. So you make this whole claim that people who smoke marijuana, their productivity goes down, their desire to work is affected, their level of effectiveness on the job dissipates, and there are all these negative and I didn't hear any evidence that proves those points. That's all an assumption on your part. You need to show us that those are, in fact, the consequences of consuming marijuana, especially at the levels that it's likely to occur. Now, I thought you did a little bit better job suggesting reasons why marijuana consumption would increase, because you gave us kind of the economic incentive to do that. The price point is going to change the way people feel about this. I think there's probably other arguments to make that suggest that there are reasons legalization would increase. Obviously, social stigma would disappear if it's a legal activity. Availability is probably another factor that would increase consumption. But you need to have better evidence about why increased consumption is problematic, especially to the economy, because that's what most of your argument's about. It's a little bit confusing, the data that you had on the first point, because at one point it sounds like we spend $15 billion enforcing the laws. Then at another point it sounds like it's $45 billion. Then it sounds like there's a claim that we're going to get $45 billion. I wasn't sure what it was that all that information that you had on that first point meant. Like I said, there was some inconsistency on it. And the second point, although you had some interesting information about the cost point and people's willingness to purchase, what's missing is like I said, the harm stuff that says that it's going to have these negative effects. All right, thank you.